Hello, everyone, and welcome to Writer's Chat. This is the fourth episode. Today, we're going to talk about, I know it's a little dreadful thing, but how often should we be writing and when? So, my name is Andrea R. Freeman, and I am with Caroline Topperman. I know this is something for me that I have been always feeling like I'm a bad writer because I should be writing every day, and sometimes that doesn't happen. But when we think about, before we even get into like, is this true or false? It's like we forget that it doesn't have to sometimes always be the book itself or the article or whatever it might be, because sometimes we need to like come up for air and do different things. But even if it's not towards the book, I mean, depending on to like what your time frame is, if you really have a deadline, yes, please, you should be writing your book. But if you have a little bit of a leeway that you don't need to be, the deadline's not very close or whatever it is that you have in order with your book, for instance. But if you think about it, anything that you're writing, and this doesn't sound silly, but even if you're writing emails daily or your newsletters or you're journaling for yourself, anything that you can think of is helping you kind of like, in one of the ways, we're going to go into this a little bit further in a few minutes, but like almost like exercising your muscle to write, or just getting you used to, especially if you've been out of the loop for a while, like your book's kind of been on to the side and you haven't gotten into it yet. Like, if you think about it, there are other things that can qualify as writing every day that you don't need to beat yourself up if it's not the actual thing you're supposed to be writing.
And we're assuming that everybody here is working on a book, but not everybody might be. So even if you're not, I think it's, I think that it is important, because it's like musicians or dancers. You do have to practice. Now, there's two schools of, like, I know people who are like, no, you don't have to write every day. And you really don't. But I would encourage people to still think about what they're working on, or if you're kind of just embarking on a new project, because part of writing is actually thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Part of writing is actually just sitting and staring off into space and having ideas come to you, and, noodling around with different thoughts and whatever else. So even if you're not actually writing, even that thinking, I think, counts.
Yes.
I have this, as you know, I have this course. It's called Tell Me What You See. And it's a 6-week, basically it's a self-run course. So you have to do it on your own, but it's really about getting past the writing blocks and just practicing. So, my approach, and my approach is mine. And I know you have a different one. So we'll go over that one too. But I'm a very visual person. So for me, it's all about using photographs and using what I see to write. Hence, tell me what you see. And so it's really about using what you already have on your phone, because I don't believe anyone who says they don't have any photographs on their phone. Everybody does. And it's about, I teach a way of being able to kind of step into the photograph and write what you see, and using all of your senses. And even if it's like 5 minutes a day, even if it's 2 minutes a day, even if it's just to sit down and write down almost like a journal of what happened that day, that's good. That counts. And I know you touched on that a second ago. That actually really does count towards using that muscle. Like just one quick thing. So I have a degree in screenwriting, and there in all of our screenwriting classes, the first thing they would make us do in class is you'd get into class and you'd open up your notebook and you spend 5 minutes writing. And they were like, I don't care if you're writing the same word over and over again, do that until another word comes into your mind, and then write that word if you need to. And so it was just that idea of practicing. I think it's really important to do, even if it's just before bed, or if it's first thing in the morning before you jump out of bed. I have a friend who gave me a paper and pen that work in the shower. So the paper doesn't get completely destroyed. And it's so good, because that's I use that like I have paper in the bathroom and a pen, I admit it, because you never know when your ideas don't come to you, right?
We talked about that.
Yeah.
I think I posted something, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, about poetry, but like, as we all know, your ideas come when you're in the shower or a bubble bath. I don't know. But I think I told you, I think I wrote in my post when I posted about whatever poem it was that I was doing. And I'm like, yeah, I keep this notepad and pen. You're like, oh, there's this paper that you can make, in the shower that I still haven't gotten that yet. And I need to do that because the thoughts still come. But no, it's true. It's, because I have to admit, even with my first book, at some point I wasn't writing every day. And then there was like this huge scare that I think we talked about in past chats, but like I almost lost everything. I almost lost my whole manuscript. I was also not saving things properly either. Yeah. So my fault. God's like, well, now I'm going to teach you the lessons of how to do this right. But, I learned a lot of things, save better, but also it was like, you need to write and finish this. Like, you presented this idea, like, get on with it. So I feel like there's seasons, like we have seasons, but there's seasons within you when it even comes to writing. So sometimes it's not going to flow out of you every day. Maybe you just don't have it in you to write even a word. But there are moments where it's needed and you got to like make it happen. And again, like we were saying, even if it's not whatever you're doing, if it's a book, an article, a blog, a newsletter, like also doing the opposite of what your project is still builds that muscle. So I was going to say too, like, so right now my book that I'm working on is poetry, but I was doing another book and that's now to the side because for me to go through some stuff that was going on in my life to help me, like a form of therapy for myself, was to start write poetry. So it turned into, that was like my therapy, but then it was kind of also helping me get a break from the other book that I was working on, but then it just like pushed ahead and now it's like poetry. So that's more of what I'm doing now. So for my book, but that's the thing too, like if, maybe sometimes if it's not there for you to want to write, is that the thing you're supposed to be doing right now? Like maybe you'd love to do it, but maybe it's not in you enough. It's not bursting out of you. So sometimes the other things that you start to write or other things that are going to lead you to writing more might be the thing that you're really supposed to do. Because that's what happened to me. I did not expect my second book to be poetry. Like that was just something to help me. Kind of like when I was in college, like I had all these like really tough courses and I took art to just calm my mind and get some creativity in me. So that's what the poetry was, in helping me calm down from the other book I was doing. But then it turned out like poetry is a thing. So
yeah,
you find.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly it. It's like, don't stress yourself out with it, because sometimes, unless it's an article and you're getting paid and you have a deadline, that's a different conversation. Keep doing that. Don't stray. That's not good. We're not going to push you to wreck your business, but that's it, is just to allow yourself to sometimes stray to something else, to clear your head and to come back to something with a fresh idea. So for me, one of the things that I do is when I'm working on something, because I'm working on a book right now that it's going okay, but I'm having some issues. There's something that there's still something that's not quite gelling for me. So what I do is the part that I leave for the evening. So, and I do make sure to write at least a sentence, at least a couple of notes at the very least, to keep working on it. What I do is the next day I reread that. I reread what I wrote, and I don't worry about editing. I know that it's really hard not to self-edit every single line, but I don't do that right away. What I do is I read it in the morning and then I just think about it. And I just let it sit all day. And then by the time I come to it in the evening, when I'm ready to actually do something with it, I find that I have a lot more ideas around it, or maybe something comes to me during the day that I can add to it. And so this way, I may not be putting words on paper or typing words onto my screen, but I am thinking about it. So I am, in a sense, writing.
Yes. I was going to say, like, as you were saying it, I was thinking about that too. Like, there's so many forms of writing, and to write, there's things that come first, like the inspiration. So I totally agree with that. I think when you're rereading, maybe something you just wrote, or just like your past notes that you've written, that could be like a month ago or a week ago, the editing process. I was even going to say to like your outlining, maybe you're just re-outlining something, like maybe you're renaming your chapters or your sub chapters or something. Maybe you're just getting not so much writing the book, but you're researching, and so you're just taking notes on the research for whatever it's worth. Yeah, like whether it's for an article, a blog, a book, whatever it might be that you're writing, or maybe you're writing copies for people, or I don't know, it's just like, it's not just, there's so many things. But yeah, like if you're just researching and you're taking your notes down, like that's still a form of writing, and it's still you incorporating some time to the book, because as we know, or the book or anything you're writing, there's so many different things that are going into it that like bring the writing together.
Yeah. And it's really easy to get frustrated, right? It's really easy just to put it down and go, I don't want to do this anymore. And I quit and I'm going to do something else. But that's okay. Like, understand that that's normal. That's gonna happen. It happens every time. Mm-hmm. And then what you want to do though is you actually want to take that and you want to almost use that to your advantage, because maybe it will be if you're working on a novel, take a character in a different direction, see what happens. And it might be totally wrong, but it's still that practice. It's still doing, it's still working at it. And so all of that really does count.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of creative nonfiction, and my books are actually based on it's all real stuff. Mm-hmm. For me, it's looking at photographs of things. So mm-hmm. I might be thinking about a vacation or something we did, and then I can look at photographs of it, and right away that jogs my memory. It makes me think about writing. Mm-hmm. It gives me new ideas because maybe I see something new, or I can describe something new.
Yeah. And like, as you say that too, it's like when you think about when, because some people are like, oh, do it first thing in the morning, but it, and you can, like, what if it works for you, that's fine. You can just do it right in the morning, or maybe you're breaking up increments of the day. Maybe it's just at night, you're like a night owl, or you're waking up in the middle of the night and you have like these ideas that are flowing through you, and you'll make sense of it in the morning. So that's fine. Like that happened to me. I renamed some of my chapters from my first book, and it never changed after that. Like that was what it was supposed to be. But there's like I know for me personally, and it's weird because when I used to work in the city, in Manhattan, I was working corporate, I found that I was writing so many different times a day. I would write on the bus, on the train or the ferry, whatever it might be. Or it wasn't so much I was writing in the morning. I would like to write in the evening, or like just like the afternoon was coming. There was just something about the feel of the way the sun came into my room. And then from there until the sun set, I don't know, it just like that motivated me. But now that I work from home, it's like, I want to do it in the morning. So it just varies. Like, again, like the seasons within you, like you change, like, maybe what you're working on warrants you to work different times during the day than what you would normally do for your last projects that you did. So, if you do tend to hear people telling you must do it in the morning, it's just like,
no,
the only must I would say is just try to write, in some way.
I agree.
Don't pressure, because then you're going to like stifle the creativity and what is supposed to come through. So, if maybe you're having a hard time choosing what time, you don't know maybe yet how to tap into the intuitiveness of that, but maybe just schedule it, if that helps. Like put in your phone as an alarm, or put on your calendar, 1:00, I'm writing a sentence.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Yeah, I really like that. I really like that idea of doing it that way. And I agree. I mean, I used to write in the morning, and now I find myself writing later in the evening, which is so bizarre because I'm not a night owl at all. I'm like an early riser, but it's like completely changed for me. And then, and I agree with you 100%. You don't just because somebody says get up and write, it doesn't mean you can also, so for me, my morning is we wake up in the morning and then we have some exercise equipment in the room right next to ours. And my husband goes and works out and makes a whole lot of noise. Like, I'm not sitting and writing at that moment, you know, or maybe you're getting up and running after kids first thing. There's no way you're going to write. But what I think happens is we put that pressure on ourselves and we get stressed out, and then we're like, well, I didn't write in the morning, so therefore I can't do anything else during the day. But you probably can write one sentence, you know, as dinner's being made, or just before going to sleep, or just as you're brushing your teeth. You can probably write that sentence if you get that magical notebook and pen for the shower. But the other thing too is that I would tell everybody, I would encourage everybody to take that moment to figure out what kind of writer you are, and also when it feels best, because by acknowledging that and knowing it, I think you are more likely to actually do it, because then you won't be as influenced by what you should be doing, right? That's the whole thing, right? What you should be doing. So that's that. Just stay true to yourself with that. And then don't beat yourself up, because again, you don't want to ever enter that cycle of beating yourself up and feeling bad and all of that. So.
Yeah. And I know that's like so much easier said than done, but you know, it's because we talked about this too. Like sometimes, you know, we talk about how people think, oh, you could just write anywhere. And it's like, you know, but as we know, there's a lot that's involved. It takes a lot of, to be a writer of anything, it's a lot of willpower and discipline and responsibility as you're having fun, you know, because it is creative. It is a beautiful gift that anyone really can do. It's just a matter of like, how invested are you in it and what's your passion behind it? So yeah, to not get so caught up in, you know, so much of it needs to be this way. It just has to be in a way.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Sorry, just
no,
throw that in too, right? It does not have to be perfect, because at the end of the day, no one needs to see it unless you want to show them.
No, I mean, especially I was going to say, like, no, it's okay. Like in the medium of how you do it. So just to show you, like, my handwriting is atrocious, but like, if you like, it's my notes. It's like, I don't even know what I'm writing because I can't read it, but it's like, if it's scribbles, if it's like, you know, on a notepad or like a Post-it, you know, if you type out your stuff, if you want to get fancy and just get some quill action going on, like, you know, it's just.
Hey, fountain pens are great.
Fountain pens.
Or pretty much all of everything now has voice.
Yes.
So then in that case, just voice, talk it. If you can't write it, talk it, you know, that's okay.
Honestly, I do that too. No, especially like, so I have all these books that are down the line they're going to be born soon, but there's a book that I'm also thinking about doing, and it's all on my phone. It's like in these voice memos. So in a sense, I've started to write it, even though it's not on paper, but it's in voice land right now. So
it totally counts.
So that helps.
Yes.
So we hope that this gives you a little more encouragement and to breathe.
Yeah. And don't let it stress you out. It's just about doing it.
That's it.
That's right. So thank you everyone for joining us. Make sure you catch our other episodes. Probably with this one, imposter syndrome would be a great one, so that you can actually write without stressing out too much. If you have any questions, please leave them below or find us on social media. You can find Andrea at Soul to Page on Instagram, and you can find me at Style on the Side. Thank you.
Thank you.